were talking about, we're recording, so we were talking about my very awkward promo at the beginning of the last episode.
Very fun.
We won't be doing that again because that was just weird. It felt really awkward. It felt really weird. I do have to talk about, because we do have sponsors. So our first sponsor, you guys don't make me laugh. our first sponsor, and God, the product is so good. It really is such a good product. It's a lotion that is, it's solid at room temperature. It's like a bar of soap, and you rub it on your hands or you rub it on your skin, and it is the best lotion I've ever used. I'm not even kidding, but the name of the lotion is called Hard Lotion. You go to hardlotion.com, and I promise you, as awkward as the name is, it's that good. It's that good of a lotion. So I do recommend people give it a shot. And if you use the code WellnessPunk at checkout, you get a free gift with any purchase over $30. So go check that out. Or you can go to our website, which is atribecoldhealth.com, and the link is there for their website. Our other sponsor is me, basically. It's Primal Cooking Workshop, which is a project that I put together a few months ago, and it has actually featured everyone that's in our tribe tonight. John Reynolds, of course, from sexfoodandkettlebells.com, and Catherine Koss from primalblissnutrition.com, and our guest tribe member this evening, Jen Fugo from glutenfreeschool.com.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So go to, that's Primal Cooking Shop, primalcookingworkshop.com. Use the code TRIBE30 and get 30% off that. Welcome, guys, to another episode of A Tribe Called Health. I'm not used to. I'm not like a really good salesperson. It's just.
No.
You know. I know. Thanks, John. I appreciate you backing up on that.
Because I am, so I can recognize.
So, John, you do the sponsors at the beginning of the show from now on. If you're.
I haven't tried any of this hard lotion. You know, it's like send me up some hard lotion.
So someone's got to send you. We'll have to send you a sample.
I'll put it to good use. I'll figure it out.
Wow. Okay. That's probably the last time they'll sponsor us anyway, so it doesn't matter. So poor Jen is like coming off of the Dr. Oz show.
And then she's
to this. She went from way up here, like super classy, standard, professional, to like completely obliterating all of her standards, and she's here. No offense to John and Catherine, but
no, this is great. This is like very chill and relaxed. I love it.
Yeah, we try. It's probably the whiskey too that has something to do with that vibe. But Jen, just give people. I know you just got to tell this story to Dr. Oz, but for the 3 people that are listening to this podcast, just let people know. Give people a little background. Tell people a little bit about your story, and or just tell them where they could find you online. So,
sure.
How did you get started in this whole gluten-free journey, this craziness?
I got sick. I think that's how everybody ends up.
Pretty much, yeah.
Probably everybody got sick, and I didn't know what was wrong. I had worked for my father, who's an ophthalmologist, so my family has been in Western medicine for a long time. And it was just like, go to the doctors. Doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. My blood work looked fine. And I landed at a nutritionist's office who was like, okay, all this fatigue and these skin problems and digestive issues and everything are not normal. And I think gluten is an issue because I'm Italian. I loved pasta. I don't eat it anymore, but pasta, bread, all that stuff. And she's like, give it a shot for a week, take it out, see how you do. And my life totally changed from that moment forward. We did more food sensitivity testing, found out I was sensitive to casein, eggs, the cruciferous family, the cashew family, gluten, and it's a lot of stuff. So all those leafy greens, the kale crazy people, I am not a crazy person because I can't eat kale.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not into kale, but that was sort of what spawned my idea to really share my journey with other people of how I figured out how to go gluten-free back in 2008 when there was very few resources out there. So, and my site, Gluten Free School, is really dedicated to people who need to go gluten-free, who already are, and really want to focus on getting healthy. Because truthfully, the standard American gluten-free diet is awful.
That's what awful. I was going to ask you about that. Do you buy into the gluten-free, processed type stuff, or more towards that's good?
Yeah, no, I think it's like a blood sugar nightmare. Most people end up getting sicker, and that's what happened to me. Is that I went gluten-free, I swapped out all the products, and then a year later I had, at the age of 29, I had adrenal fatigue, candida, and had to really reevaluate my relationship with food, and that has really helped shape my perspective of what I share with people, is that you really have to always focus on foods that happen to be gluten-free.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before. You just eat foods that just happen to be gluten free, not necessarily go to the store and buy foods that say gluten free. Did you start out that way? Did you make the same mistakes that pretty much everyone makes, or did they just go to the store and oh, this is easy. I've got gluten free pasta and gluten free cookies and gluten free.
Yeah, you have to understand. Okay, the bread. I'm gonna be honest. I've never liked gluten free bread. It was so bad. It would fall apart. And the frozen millet bread, I would try and stick a knife in it, and I could not get the wedge. I just gave up. I couldn't get the bread apart. So I forget it with bread from the get-go, but I always ate pasta, pizza, and any time, God forbid, there was a gluten-free brownie or cookie or whatever, I was like, I have to take one for the team. I have to try it. I have to see, if it's good. And that really was my downfall, was just that idea that those were healthy. I thought they were healthy because they were gluten-free. I was under the same impression many people are, and it's really wrong.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I grew up in a very Italian household too. So, and there's really no substitute for really good Italian bread anyway. So
I know.
You might as well just forget it.
So, Jen, just there are a lot of gluten-free or grain-free recipes and products that are healthier and are more whole foods based. And what are some ways that some people can tell the difference between a low quality crappy product that says gluten-free and it's still going to kill them, and something that's a better option? What sort of strategies or recommendations? How do people start to tell the good from the bad just because it's gluten-free?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would automatically tell people to look first at the ingredients label. When you see a laundry list of ingredients right there, you're like, okay, I would never make this. I mean, I don't bake for exactly that reason. It's just too much of a hassle. But if you're not ever going to buy that amount of ingredients to bring into your house to make one recipe, then chances are it's really processed. The second thing is to look at the amount of sugar in things, because a lot of people don't know how to tell if there's a lot of sugar in food. And so the way that I always teach clients is that every 4 grams of sugar on the package, on the label, the nutrition label, is equal to 1 teaspoon. And I mean, look, I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of these health associations, but the American Heart Association says, I don't know where they got the number, but they say that we're not supposed to have, at least for women, more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day. For men, it's 8 added teaspoons. So you can do the math for yourself. You can start adding things up and really going, oh my gosh, there's there's a cupcake from Whole Foods, a gluten-free cupcake. It has 47 or 46 grams of sugar in one cupcake. That's ridiculous.
Lord.
That's a lot of sugar considering.
Let me just make sure I have that math down. How many teaspoons per gram?
Every 4 grams is 1 teaspoon.
So that's like 10 teaspoons of sugar in
12 or 13
in a serving. That's crazy.
In one cupcake. Yeah. It's basically all sugar. And that doesn't even take into account the number of carbohydrates, the starchy carbohydrates that are in it that get converted to glucose in your body when it breaks that cupcake down. So, and people ask.
Go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
What's that?
Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is that people don't realize as well that even if it says like brown rice, like I don't really eat grains anymore and I don't eat legumes. I didn't know until this year that they actually really bother me. And I recognize that not everybody's there. And so wherever you are. But even brown rice flour is that's not low glycemic because it's brown rice flour. I mean, people are under some illusion that because it says brown rice that it's better than white rice. I'm like, yeah, it still all gets broken down. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not like this. I don't fear sugar that much. I think the body does preferentially run on glucose, but God, there's got to be a breaking point, like 10, 12 teaspoons of sugar in a sitting is just insane. I don't think we're really designed to handle that much.
That's what I was going to say. The difference is that Americans in general are used to a diet that's extremely high and like way off the charts high in glucose. So so people think that when you're on this, I guess you call it paleo primal lifestyle, that you're suddenly going low carb. But it's not that you're going low carb, it's that you're going the amount of carbs that your body, that you're kind of meant to consume, and that we're just off the charts right now.
Yeah.
I also think too, and this was something
that the amount of.
Oh, sorry, Catherine.
Oh no, that's okay. I was going to say with the amount of breads and pastas and those types of foods that we're consuming, but you can get a decent amount of good carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables, and some people do fine with rice.
Yeah,
and I don't like I said, I think everybody's, well, I might not have said it, but I always do think that everybody has a unique key that they have to figure out with their diet. For me, I find that I can't do legumes. I had no idea how sick they were making me until I took them out and then added them back in. And oh my goodness, it was bad. And I just feel a lot better. And actually, I did not take all the grains out of my diet until the beginning of October. And I didn't have a whole lot of sugar cravings at that point. But literally after like 2 weeks, every ounce of sugar cravings that I had disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, for me, like if I want to enjoy like maybe some gluten-free cookies for Christmas, I'm not going to stress about it, but I just try to manage and make better choices for like 80% of the time.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing I always try and get across is like, let's not stress too much about this stuff. The anxiety is probably worse than some of the food that we're talking about.
So it sounds like gluten is what you started with and what your main mission is eliminating, but it sounds like you preach and go much more into just eliminating gluten, right? You're looking.
Yeah. So for my audience, there are people who they're going gluten-free. They found out that they're gluten sensitive. They think they might be gluten sensitive. They want to give it a try, or they have celiac disease or maybe some other autoimmune disease that is benefited, like thyroid conditions and such. And they're like, I'm looking at this and it's still a cupcake. It's still a cookie. It's still a brownie. This doesn't make sense to me. I want to know more. And maybe I don't feel better. In fact, I feel worse than I did when I started. But all of the things that people are writing in like these magazines, these gluten-free magazines, like I want to throw them against the wall sometimes, like screaming, because it angers me. They write like, here's how to be healthy. And then they tell you things that don't make any amount of sense. So I don't have a ton of friends in the gluten-free world, but you know what? Hey, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I buck the trend, so.
Yeah, you have to be true to yourself and be authentic. So, and I think you're doing that. And ultimately that's going to help the people who want to be helped, right? There's going to be people out there who just don't want to be helped ultimately. And there are people out there who really want the truth, And so speaking of mainstream media, so I'm dying to ask you a little bit about your appearance on Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
How was that? It was really nerve-wracking. I mean, I have spoken in front of large groups before, but this is like you have one shot. It's not like I've done an episode for a reality TV show and you get like multiple takes, and if you mess up, you can just stop talking and start again. It's not like that. Like you have one opportunity in that like 2.5 minute segment to say exactly what needs to be said for that segment. And I fortunately was very lucky to have the opportunity to have my story support Dr. Amy Meyer's work. And if anyone went to Paleo FX last year, she was one of the women that spoke on several of the panels about health, and she's a really big proponent of helping people have gluten sensitivity, which for those who don't know is like there's a lot of doubt within the medical community that it even exists. They're trying to say that it's maybe a FODMAP issue. We don't know. We're not sure. I mean, even like in the celiac world, they're sort of like, they know they're celiac, but the gluten sensitivity thing is very gray still. And she's been a big, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I watched the episode today, and I noticed what I really liked was the fact that when Dr. Oz asked her, what do you eat? She put out like pretty much meats, vegetables, nuts, and, fruit. Like she put out real food versus you can eat this and like this gluten-free Pamela's mix for this. And that, you know what I mean? She actually, so you could see that it was in that direction, which was really good for mainstream television, because usually with mainstream television, they would be promoting the gluten-free products and still the processed food. I thought that was really good.
And I don't know if you noticed, she even said, like, if it's a cookie, if it's a brownie, it's still junk food. Junk food is junk food. And I was glad that she said that.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
just don't mess with my ice cream.
That's definitely.
Don't take away my ice cream.
Shut up, Joe.
Well, gluten, some companies do put gluten in ice cream.
That's true. Yeah, I make my own ice cream.
Well, there you go. You're fine.
Go ahead, John. I was just
saying that's definitely something that goes around circles in the paleo and primal community every now and then, is that some people get really gung-ho on eating and baking and buying all the treats. And start to gain weight or not feel so good, or have issues, and then we get a lot of really strong anti-sugar drive happening a lot, where everyone's trying to eliminate the treats and everything altogether, and then someone like Joe or me gets in trouble when we post a delicious like root beer float recipe or something on Facebook. But we do that just to keep things interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other thing is I spent years getting healthier to get to the point where I can enjoy things like that sometimes. Some people,
and you know what, too, you have to live. You know what I mean? Like we live in a culture where those things are very, very, very common, and that you can't live in a bubble. And you have to be able to, enjoy the occasional. I think if you try to go to, I guess they call it hardcore, then, that you end up isolating yourself quite a bit too.
Yeah, it's going to affect your social life, and it's probably not healthy to have that much anxiety and stress over food anyway. So
yes, that was my point. Like having a healthy relationship with foods and understanding that it's okay to have that occasional.
And I know too, with friends and family, if you're very I think militant is probably a very good word to use. People don't want to be around you. They feel like you're preaching to them all the time. It's very alienating. And I do believe that there is a type of eating disorder around people that become way too restrictive and rigid about their food. So that it doesn't have to appear as like anorexia or bulimia for us to label it as an eating disorder, but your mental approach to food can definitely show up as an issue that you may need to seek coaching or some sort of help around.
Yeah, professional help around an eating disorder. Yeah, I've seen that sort of philosophy go around a little bit, where it's like, when I say the words "eat whatever you want," what sort of image does that conjure up in your head? Like for me, it's like, I'm still pretty much going to eat healthier food, or food that doesn't hurt me. And then once in a while, I'm going to have some ice cream or some, like you said, a gluten-free treat every now and then. That's pretty much whatever I want. But if your mind goes to, I'm going to completely binge on nothing but junk food, then that's bordering. I think that might be bordering on something a little bit deeper that maybe
when switching to this lifestyle, I actually found that, and I don't know if your experience is the same with this, that my relationship with food actually became a lot healthier and a lot better, and I didn't have the same struggles that I had before, and because I felt okay with eating real food and having those occasional things, and it actually made it easier for me to not have that relationship or struggle with food. Do you find in your experience the same?
I would absolutely say yes, but I will preface it with the fact that I still get hung up on fat. I mean, I eat plenty of fat. I've added a lot of fat into my diet, but I feel like a bad girl. Like, like as I was talking to Joe earlier, I was making a smoothie and I put in like coconut, like I think 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. I put in a couple of handfuls of nuts, and like I don't, and I had avocado earlier, and I'm like cooking with bacon fat and other rendered fats, and I'm fine with it. But there's this little voice in the back of my head that's like, you shouldn't, that's going to clog your arteries. Like, it's still that unwinding.
Yeah.
That takes a little while to go away. Yeah, I mean, there are moments where I'm like having bacon for like the 8th day in a row, and I'm going,
that was me this morning.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that, because I definitely, several times, I would say almost every time when my diet is getting to its absolute best, like where I really feel good, I'm really trim and lean, and I'm eating like exactly what I feel like I want, all of a sudden I'll be like, wait, is this going to get me fat? Or like, is this, I'm like, wait, I'm like in the best shape ever. And I'm like, wait, am I doing something wrong? Because we're still, conditioned.
We are so conditioned.
It's really hard. And I don't know if I'm curious, like for you guys, because I mean, for women, I think the issue, especially around like low fat and the fat-free diets, was big. Like I'm in my early 30s, and for me, growing up, it was like, oh, don't eat fat. Like for you guys, do you find that you have those same hang-ups with fat, or it didn't matter to you?
I did, yeah. I mean, there was that spell, well, I mean, I wasn't eating great to begin with years ago, but I mean, there was that time where it was like, oh, snack wells. You guys remember snack wells?
Yes, those were my favorite.
Seriously, it was like, oh, they're low fat. It's fine. I used to, the snack wells, they were like that. There was the chocolate, like devil's food with the chocolate coating on top.
Yes.
I used to take a bite of that and like dunk it in coffee, and then the coffee would fill up the inside of the cookie, and it was like, so good. But so bad. Like so bad. You're better off just making cookies with like a shitload of butter, and it would be so much healthier.
I loved the Snackwell's vanilla cream sandwiches.
I don't remember those.
Oh, those were good.
You're totally regressed now back to the days.
I've been eating paleo or primal for, I guess, like 3.5 years now or something. It's coming 3 years maybe. And before trying that, I was just on the eat everything diet, because I was just, I saw I could eat anything. And I was into bodybuilding and literally everything. And I thought high carb and everything was great. And I was pile driving them in. And yeah, when it came to, just because you were asking,
pile driving.
Yeah.
What an image.
Well, and I knew nothing about like processed food or whatnot. Like I was eating Manchu wok like 5 days a week, like in the mall, just pile driving down. And so when it came to trying, this opposite kind of diet, more moderate fat, less carb, trying paleo and primal. And I tried it just because many of the very key influential people who I was following as a professional were promoting it. And I hadn't even read much about it or knew much. I just knew that I really trusted them, and they were in great shape. And I'm young, it was 3 years ago, even still, I was even younger. I was like, what do I know? I'll try it. So I just started pile driving it in, and it was great. It just started working amazingly, and just no questions asked. I just stuck with it. But then I wanted to know why that was happening. So I started learning and reading about it and trying different things. But just from a young man's perspective, I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to try it out. If I start to get fat or get unhealthy, I'll know. And if I start to get lean and ripped, I'll know too. And that was my experience with it.
Yeah. I don't think we should pile drive anything anymore for this episode. Let's just leave the pile driving. Stay the pile driving.
Maybe it's very appropriate with your
Yeah,
sponsor.
give me some of that hard lotion.
That's true. Damn it. Yeah. Good Lord. Dr. Oz.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. You brought it down to that level.
I know I did. That's why I said sorry. I couldn't help myself.
I was going to say, no, it's all good. No, but we actually brought you down to this level. You're one of us now. But it was funny. I was saying before that, Dr. Oz actually got a little bit of street cred with that segment on gluten sensitivity, because I think he went out on a limb a little bit with that. But then the very next segment, he's like, make sure you get your whole grains. I mean, you're getting. I think he had to sort of cover himself. That's my opinion.
Well, it was very strange, because when I looked at the description of the episode, it was just about gluten sensitivity, like the warning signs, and that was how he led off with the show. It was for just watching it. It was a little.
It was so bizarre. Because you have so for anyone who hasn't watched it, first of all, you go check it out. It's on my Facebook page, and we'll put it in the show notes here too. Check. It's a really, really good segment. Dr. Amy Myers did a great job also in explaining it. So it's like the gluten sensitivity segment is like the first two videos, really good, and then it cuts to the third video. It was like whole grains, and I was like, what? What do you mean?
But maybe there might be someone from Monsanto or something might assassinate him.
Exactly.
If he goes off the.
Yeah.
You can't go off the reservation too far.
Too far, exactly. But yeah, it was a really good segment. I've seen him do segments on cholesterol that were really pretty open-minded. So God, I'd love to make fun of the guy, but
before, right?
What's that?
He did have a paleo segment.
That's right. He did a paleo segment too. Yeah, absolutely. So
Christina was on it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I felt really lucky that, my story was able to, be the example out there. Like, I mean, there's obviously so much more to it, but you got 2.5 minutes. You've got to just condense it down to what's most important. And I think the thing that's important for anybody who does see it to remember is that even though they don't talk about gut issues, a lot of people do have them. They don't realize that it's abnormal. And they don't, especially with constipation, people don't realize how often they're supposed to go to the bathroom. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people are very constipated, unfortunately, and they think it's normal to go once a week. I don't know why one would think that, but
that can't feel good. There's nothing about that. That's right.
Exactly. So there are definitely a lot of digestive problems that go along with various food sensitivities.
That's one thing I was going to bring up, Jennifer, was that he did kind of Dr. Oz did really make a point of cutting out the digestion part of it and not having the girl ring the bell for the gut issues. And I was surprised about that because, like you said, a lot of times there are gut issues, but they're just so used to feeling that way. They're so used to having heartburn. They're so used to bloating. They're so used to having gas. And it's just a normal, they think that's normal aging. So I think I was surprised that I understand that he could say that this is a sign that isn't necessarily an indication, but he completely cut it out. I did notice that.
I think from what I understand, they're actually going to do another show around just specifically the gut issues, and that was why they wanted to really, and from talking to Dr. Myers, just focus on the fact that there are a lot of people walking around who think that in order to have a sensitivity to anything, you should have diarrhea, constipation, gas, all this painful bloating, etc. And it's well, no, it could be your headaches, it could be migraines, it could be your skin, it could be any other number of things. And so they were just trying to make that point. And people they're wait, I thought you had digestive problems. I'm I did, but it just wasn't the focus of the show. So
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
but I think it's important for people to realize that. I think the stat is something like 7 out of 8 people have symptoms outside of the gut. So, I mean, I think that was important. I would have liked to see them talk about it, but I am glad they're going to do another segment on that.
That's good that they are.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, I can't speak for them. I'm not privy. That was just what I was told. So I guess we'll see.
How was Dr. Oz as a person? Did you get to talk to him at all?
I think Dr. Oz just seems like such a creep to me. There's something creepy about the guy. I don't know what it is, and I'm sorry.
Just hold nothing back, Joe. Hold nothing back.
Just letting it fly.
Go ahead, Jen. I'm going to let you, since you actually know him personally now.
I don't know him I do not know Dr. Oz personally. We're not. Yeah, we're BFFs now. You know.
You're on first name basis now, right?
Of course. No, he was very nice, and he was very pleasant, and he was very easy to work with. And I obviously Dr. Myers spent a lot more time with him than I did, and I know that she really enjoyed her experience. But everyone on the show, everybody that works there, including himself, was very nice and helpful and friendly. So
he seemed genuinely interested in getting that message out. So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah.
I think it's a little creepy though.
So, Jen.
Yeah.
So I just want to know for our audience, if someone, has seen this, or they've listened to this podcast and they're thinking, I may be gluten sensitive, or I want to try going gluten free. What's your recommendations on where they start? Like I just said that to you. What do you say back to this person, or where do you tell them to investigate their, go for it?
So they have a couple of options. There's the low budget option, with which Dr. Amy Myers had suggested, is just take gluten out of your diet. And really, I did it for longer than a week, but the first week I noticed big changes. So you can do that.
Interject there. Sorry. A lot of people won't know what gluten is or what it's in. How do you recommend they get a little bit of education on that so they can start to eliminate it?
Well, do you want me to finish the second part and then I can answer that question?
Yeah.
That sounds like that's important then, isn't it?
The second way is, if you want to just short circuit the process, you go to someone who can do blood testing and determine if you have antibodies in your system. Now, a little more like I don't know, less conventional way of going about it. You can also get muscle testing done. Some practitioners will do muscle testing where you'll hold a vial with gluten in it, and they'll check to see if they can press your arm lower. And I do believe that works. I have had practitioners check me in that way. But not everybody's into that kind of stuff. And so to each their own. They sometimes need physical results to look at on a piece of paper. So if you're not certain what gluten is a spongy protein that's found in several grains. The list is actually quite long, but the general ones are wheat, which everybody knows about. Actually, I'll tell you the acronym. So there's an acronym, which is BROWS. So BROWS. So barley, rye, oats that are contaminated, wheat, and spelt. That's an easy gluten-free for dummies way to remember where you might find gluten. And like I tell people, just when people ask you where gluten is, just tell them that, because otherwise they zone out after 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Just tell them it's everywhere. Stop eating.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. So, John, did you have a
follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
So how do you operate? Feel free to tell us a little bit more of your business side or your coaching side, or where people can find you and what types of services. What is having you as, an exclusive reference do for someone beyond just eliminating gluten altogether? Because you just gave that away for free. So,
Well, I have plenty of information on my website at glutenfreeschool.com. I write about all different aspects of the lifestyle. Even your dog. We forget a lot of times that there's gluten in all different things that we might not even be eating, like pet food. And if you're handling the pet food and you forget to wash your hands, you glutened yourself when you go to make your, whatever you're eating for that day, or your pet. I have cats, and it freaked me out when I realized that when cats eat, they then clean themselves. And then I'm holding my cat and I'm like, oh crap, there's gluten all over me now. Like, I don't really need that.
Chico is actually Chico actually eats a paleo diet and a paleo-based food, so he is gluten-free. So he's got gluten-free kisses.
As are my cats now. We only buy paleo food now.
I just switched mine over too.
Yeah.
So there's all different things, like all different aspects of this lifestyle to consider. It is beyond food. It's not important that someone in the beginning or just trying to figure it out do all of that, because you don't quite know how committed you're going to be, and that can be overwhelming. But if people come to the website, like I have a podcast, I have a pretty active Facebook group, and I offer different online courses and things like that. Some people will even hire me one-on-one to teach them how to meal plan and get in the mode of cooking. I really think cooking should be simple. I'm not a trained chef, but you know what? Neither's my mother. Neither is my grandmother. Neither are my great aunts. And they're all and were awesome cooks. So I think we have to get out of the mindset of it. We have to look like and act like the cooking channel and like Giada and all these chefs that are paid to like be perfect, and just realize we need to just get in the kitchen and cook. And that way it makes switching to the diet so much easier. And so I help people make that transition and learn how to use a freezer and all that stuff. So it's a lot.
I don't know about you guys, but every time I cook, it's like the cooking channel. I turn all the lights on. I talk to the wall. I'm hosting a show. You guys don't do that?
No.
Do you guys remember remember that Seinfeld episode where they had the set for a talk show? You guys remember that? No. Guys. No, you guys are. I'm aging myself a little bit, I guess. Huh? Jeez. Anyway, yeah. So that's my life. Jen, so you were diagnosed with gluten sensitivity, right? Not celiac disease. Do you notice any pushback from the celiac community? Like, sometimes I see this sort of rift between like gluten sensitivity and celiac disease. Do you see that?
Yes. So I was diagnosed with gluten sensitivity. I have never been tested for celiac. So I don't know if I have celiac or not. I do watch my blood work. There are specific markers that you can kind of watch to see if there are problems. And obviously, if you start developing thyroid issues and all sorts of things, you should probably, I've considered it. I'm like, I should maybe just get the genetic testing done and just see if I have the gene. But yes, there is unfortunately this weird riff and this is what sort of happened with the show, is that people started to see the segment, the Dr. Oz segment, and then people with celiac said, well, she should have said that before you go and do all this and you take gluten out, if you think you're sensitive, you should go get checked for celiac disease. But there's also a big question about how much testing and how invasive testing must be in order to be diagnosed with celiac disease. I don't think that there is an answer yet. And there also is the fact that, like, I wrote a piece on gluten sensitivity is real, because there's a lot of questions around whether it is or not. And it's funny, like, a lot of my celiac friends, like I write about celiac a lot, and because it's important and I want to be out there and help support that community, but like they're not always as emphatic about gluten sensitivity, which they are gluten sensitive. Like if you have celiac disease, you're also gluten sensitive. So there is a riff. I don't know how to like repair it or fix it. I really don't understand why it needs to be there, but I don't think that it serves anybody by the fact that there's this constant infighting between the two different little subgroups.
No, I think it's about just education and people starting to accept, and the research is there. It's really solid that gluten sensitivity is a very real thing. It was funny. I made a video a while back that I called the gluten spec. I called the gluten spec. Well, that was one. I did the one with gluten and autoimmunity in 20 minutes. It's got like 1 million views on it, or 50. I'm not sure. But I made another video called Gluten Spectrum, and it described, like, on one end of the spectrum it's celiac disease, on the other end of the spectrum you can eat all the gluten you want. I'm watching the Dr. Oz thing yesterday, and I was like, that's my video. Like, they totally stole my video. but that's what people have to realize, is that, in some people, gluten sensitivity is just like a step before celiac disease. Like if those people keep going, they're just going to become celiac disease. For some people, they'll just stay in the middle, and some people they can actually get better. But it's weird. I think there's like a resentment there because I think for some people, gluten is like this gluten-free diet is sort of a fad, or people are trying to use it to lose weight, and it may make it more difficult for people with celiac disease when they go to like a restaurant.
And it's funny that you say that. There are people that have celiac disease whom I know that like really dislike Dr. Davis, who wrote Wheat Belly, because they feel that he has really trivialized and turned into a fad the whole like wheat thing. And I think too, what doesn't help is showing all the weight loss before and after photos, and that really bothers that. But, like even people see my before and after picture, which is quite shocking, and they're like, "Yeah, but you lost weight. It's a weight loss issue." And I'm like, "I had inflammation. Like I can't help the fact that I had I was carrying around like 20 extra pounds of inflammation on my body. Like they're searching because they want to find some other reason to explain away the fact that I lost so much weight. But when you look at my picture, I clearly was inflamed. My face is so puffy and my whole body was like that."
Well, I think too, I was diagnosed with celiac, and I don't have those same opinions, but I think it's also like it's a switch. And I think like Joe was saying, it's a spectrum, and there can be people who have very severe symptoms. Like I was like buckled over in pain, but there was people that can have very severe symptoms and still be diagnosed negative for celiac, but have symptoms worse than someone who is diagnosed with celiac.
Yeah.
So I think people with celiac they do need to come to terms with or understand the fact that even though someone isn't diagnosed with celiac, doesn't necessarily mean that the condition isn't just as painful or severe or affecting their lives in so many different ways as someone with celiac.
And I even know people who like, and I was just going to say, like, I even know people who, if they inhale, just, like if they were in the same, like if they walked into a pizzeria and, there's a lot of dust in the air or flour in the air, that can be enough to trigger their problems. So, but they're not necessarily celiac.
That's where I'm at too. But I mean, but I do. I want
to eat something, show.
The wafting of the pizza.
Yes, the wafting of the pizza.
Smell the pizza.
Yeah, that was a lot.
I didn't know the pizza was going to come that close to my face. So, but
that was a little weird, and the bell ringing and stuff.
So, but I think, I did appreciate that he was trying to make a visual example out of it. And, I guess in a sense, I was like, thank goodness that I don't get that sick where like him doing that. And obviously I was trying not, my natural reaction would have been to like totally back up and like
throw the pizza in his face. But what are you doing? That would have made for such good television. Oh my God.
I don't know if it would have made it. Might have been cut. But but I think that for some people the feedback that I've gotten is that they found that like with the bells and then like having no bell with the gut symptoms was helpful to understand that other things could flare up as a result of eating something, and that they really didn't connect that gluten sensitivity is a systemic problem. It's not isolated to the gut alone.
So that makes sense.
Are there any benefits? Do you think there are any benefits to actually getting that gold standard diagnosis?
What I've been told is that obviously, if you find out that you're celiac, it runs in families. So you then could, suggest to your siblings and relatives that they perhaps should get tested, and it could explain why some people are sick or have issues. Other people have said, well, we want to know, like, especially with the endoscopy, they want to know how much damage is done and where you sit as far as the damage in the gut is concerned. So if, God forbid, there isn't progress, or maybe there is progress, they'll be able to see it. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, maybe a tax credit. Because I think
that for some people it might actually be a psychological benefit.
Sure.
I know that my older sister, and I don't know if I should talk about her on this, but she doesn't watch this, so forget whatever. Okay?
No one watches it, John. So.
she already knew that like gluten and grains weren't good for her. She's tried removing them before and she's had good results, but she's been off and on with them and she eats them in moderation. But she went and she saw a naturopath and they've confirmed now that she is gluten sensitive and that she should not be eating it. And all of a sudden that is enough for her that she knew that already. She was pretty sure. She was 100% sure. But because someone else said it now and they had, evidence why, now she is kind of excited about the fact that she finds it easier to not eat grains and not eat gluten. She's decided now that she doesn't eat it because she's found out that she can't. Even though she was well aware of it, because she got the gold standard, statement on it, now she's like, okay, I don't eat gluten anymore. So that could be a benefit.
Right. Yeah,
for some people.
I'm curious, Catherine, since you have celiac disease, like what was it? Was it meaningful for you to get that diagnosis?
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't go through a process where I discovered that I was reacting to wheat or gluten or anything. I just was having horrible stomach pains every night where I was kind of buckled over in pain, and then thyroid issues and all sorts of things. So the diagnosis was just, an immediate, okay, I just need to cut this out kind of thing. And then the process kind of went from kind of similar where I started with the packaged processed gluten. Okay, I'll just switch to gluten-free. And then the revelation was still feeling lousy. So then, and then I don't know about you, but I found that I was, and I think this might be very common with people who are sensitive to gluten, is I'm also sensitive to several other things. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it has to do with the gut destruction that happened because of the gluten, but I also react. I heard you mention cashews, and every time I have cashews, I realize I'm having horrible stomach pain. So I just recently cut cashews out, and I love cashews. But I also react to soy, corn, some of the big allergens. So I think there's a big connection between those. Well.
And what actually wasn't a bummer for me at the time when I found out about cashews, because the cashew family is cashews, pistachios, and mangoes, which I never liked mangoes ever.
I never did. I always thought cashews were legumes. I didn't know that.
I don't know. It's just whatever family it's a part of. So I had to learn that. It was like when I found out about the cruciferous family, all of a sudden I had to learn, about cabbage, broccoli, kale, Swiss chard, canola oil, arugula, all these different greens and plants that I couldn't really eat and tolerate. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I can't have broccoli. I'm okay with it. Can't have kale. I'm okay. I've gotten over it.
Yeah, that's not a hard thing to get over. Pistachios, on the other hand, that would be a real issue.
Oh my gosh! And I think I'm reacting to those too because I've noticed that.
Oh wow!
I will say that with time, and I've been working with a practitioner for the last year on reducing the leaky gut issues that I've had, and it has made a huge difference. I actually can now eat cashews and pistachios without a problem. And I can do a little bit of like goat cheese, and I don't have any issues. So, not that I necessarily need to have dairy in my diet or anything like that, but to me, I was like, okay, that's a sign at least that the integrity of my gut is getting better, and that's a really good thing. But it is pretty typical. And this is the one thing that kills me about gluten-free folks that are not very savvy, like they're just not very educated about the whole process of food sensitivities in the gut, is that they'll go, I got gluten, your product, and they ate something. We'll just say like a bar of chocolate. I ate your bar of chocolate and I got gluten, even though it was tested, even though they tested the batches and they confirmed that there was, it was below the tolerated levels of gluten. And the person just assumes that they're getting glutened all the time and they're really angry and pissed off about that, forgetting that they could potentially be sensitive to something else in that food and it's not gluten. So they feel like they're getting glutened, but it's like, for you, it's like soy. Soy is in a lot of things. It could be corn. It could be the type of sugar. And guess what? Like it could be maple sugar. It could be dates. It could be honey. Like you can be sensitive to anything.
Could be the chocolate itself.
Could be the chocolate itself.
I just did a video on this recently where the chocolate itself may have proteins that sequences, amino acid sequences within the proteins that look like the amino acid sequences in gluten.
Right.
And so the immune system is going to react to it. And it's the same like with coffee and with other grains and soy and things like that, milk, dairy.
I've heard about that with coffee. Yeah.
And actually, can I tell you, I don't have any kids, but this was sort of like an interesting thing that I learned is that with babies, you're really not supposed to give them cow's milk dairy for like the first at least year of their life, if not 2. And part of the reason is because of that, because there is a protein in cow's milk that their body, if they have if you have a family history of diabetes, can mistake for some of the pancreatic cells that produce insulin.
Same thing with same thing with gluten too. I think type 1 diabetes is a big link there.
The type 1 diabetes, it sits on the genes sit right near one another. But you can they said that can be a trigger for type 1 diabetes, is that cow's milk. And so I think we assume that because it's food, it should be safe, but that's just not. That's not true. One man's, what do they say? One man's food is another man's poison, or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Catherine, you're working on a book right now for is the ebook you're working on right now for feeding kids?
Well, I just published a guide on feeding babies and toddlers. So I agree with
which is excellent. It's excellent, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And then I'm working, I should be done this weekend actually. It's an ebook on Joshua's lunches on feeding children.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That's great.
Then, I'm working on an actual hardcover book on feeding babies and toddlers. So it's a definite area of interest and focus for me.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
I want to interrupt.
Go for it.
Because I have to go.
All right. Yeah, no problem, John.
And this has been lots of fun. I'm really glad that we were able to do this. Thanks for coming on the show, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
Catherine, again.
Yes, nice to see you.
And I'm out, just so everybody knows. Jen, if you want to check my stuff out, sexfoodandkettlebells.com.
Oh, I will.
Awesome blog, awesome recipes.
Seem good. I'll see you later, Joe.
Thanks, John. I'll talk to you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, we should probably wrap it up. I think we're going on close to an hour here. I think we could probably do a whole other show on some of these other topics. I would love to get into, like, we talked about getting that gold standard diagnosis, but there are some issues with that diagnosis, issues with the testing itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a question about, like, how necessary is it to be so invasive and to put a person out? And, I haven't gone that.
Something that may not necessarily be that accurate to begin with.
So I'm not an expert on it. So, and I can't comment too much about that. And obviously I've not been tested for celiac. So, I just think that we all have to figure out how to get along and support one another, because it doesn't, the little like snippy comments and bickering does really nothing to support us. And I think it only feeds to the idea that this is a fad, that we're all like idiots walking around being like, I need to be gluten free because I get sick, and no one believes you. They think it's a joke. So I like it. It angers me to no end that we can't just find some spot, all of us, like whether you're paleo, primal, gluten-free just because you feel better, or you're sensitive, or you're celiac, or you have thyroid issues, or whatever. Let's all just come together, because frankly, the media has done a much better job at portraying people who want to live this way as like kind of crazy, then we have done a good job of saying, hey, this is a real lifestyle, this supports us, and this is something we would like everyone to take seriously.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately we're all sort of moving in the same direction. At least we seem to be moving in the same direction, so I don't really know what the heck there is to fight about.
I don't know.
But good stuff. Really, really good episode. Catherine, just remind folks what your website is, and Facebook and Pinterest and all that stuff.
Sure, it's www.primalblissnutrition.com, facebook.com/primalblissnutrition, and I'm on Instagram, Primal Bliss. Pinterest, Primal Bliss, and Primal Bliss.
Excellent. And your guide that you just put out, they can just find that on your website?
Yes.
Awesome. Jen, what do you got going on Gluten-Free School?
I have, oh my gosh. I have a course coming up in January about how to go gluten-free and how to live gluten-free. So if people want to come and download a 7-day meal plan and has a bunch of recipes in it and stuff, you can come over to glutenfreeschool.com and sign up for that. And I have a really great Facebook community. You can just look that up on Gluten-Free Schools, 3 words on Facebook, and it'll pop up.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I am at wellnesspunks.com and facebook.com/wellnesspunks. I'm starting to try the Pinterest thing. There's just no time. Although I talk to a lot of people who really love Pinterest, so I really should start making more of an effort there. But gosh.
Yeah, it's getting big thing.
Yeah. So you can try and find me on Pinterest too. I can't guarantee there'll be a lot of stuff up there, but I'm trying. That is it for tonight. Thanks again, Jen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was great to talk to all you guys.
Likewise.
Nice.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.